This week on The Watchman, we are taking you inside one of the most famous spots in Israel's war for independence. In 1948, the Jewish population in Jerusalem was cut off. The Jordanian army was closing in, and then Israeli forces opened up the legendary Burma Road, and this was crucial to the survival not only of Jerusalem, but of the modern state of Israel. It's an amazing story, folks. You won't want to miss it today, right here on The Watchman, only on TBN, and only with Christians United for Israel. And welcome to The Watchman from Jerusalem. Right now, this amazing city is celebrating a very special milestone. 2017 marks 50 years since Israeli forces captured Jerusalem and reestablished it as Israel's capital city. Israel's miraculous victory during the Six-Day War meant that the city of Jerusalem was once again under Jewish control for the first time in 2,000 years. That means today, in 2017, Israel is celebrating a Jubilee, the 50th anniversary of the reunification of God's holy city, the city where the Bible says He has written His name forever. But we almost didn't get here. In 1948, just 19 years before the glorious Israeli victory in the Six-Day War, the Jewish population of Jerusalem was trapped by enemy forces and under siege. Israeli convoys carrying much-needed food, water, and medical supplies had horrible difficulty breaking through this blockade, and many Israelis lost their lives. The fate of not only Jerusalem, but the entire reborn nation of Israel hung in the balance. The solution was a marvel of building and engineering called the Burma Road. And today, our good friend, renowned Israeli archeologist and tour guide Danny the Digger Herman joins us to share how Israel and Jerusalem lived to fight another day. It's the story of the legendary Burma Road, this week on The Watchman. Danny, welcome back to The Watchman.
Hey, welcome again to Israel.
Always great to be with you, my friend. And we are in a very significant place right now, a place where people may not know a whole lot about. We are in Latrun in Israel. Now, this is Israeli territory, Danny, but not so long ago, this was not Israeli territory, and there's probably a good chance that Jordanian soldiers were standing where we are standing right now. Give us a little bit of the background of this place and why it's so significant.
Yes, between 48 to 67, all of this region up to that fortified hilltop was Jordanian controlled. But let's start in the beginning, okay? First of all, the topography. You are on a very strategical hilltop between Tel Aviv in the back and Jerusalem that way.
So we're right in between.
Yes, and up to here, it's more or less open space, but from here, the road narrows to a specific path that goes up the mountains to Jerusalem. Anyone controlling this hill controls the road to Jerusalem.
This is it?
Yes. In Roman times, you had here a city called Emmaus Nicopolis. Maybe it's the Emmaus mentioned in the last chapter in the Gospel of Luke, where Jesus... Exactly, this is the road to Emmaus from Jerusalem. Yeah. In the Middle Ages, in Crusaders' time, the Crusaders made here a fortified stand called Le Toron de Chevalier, the Fort of the Knights. After they left, the Arabs found that term to be too long, so they shortened Le Toron de Chevalier to La Turun. And this is how we Israelis know this region to this day. In the 1930s, the British tried also to enforce their power by making their own fortress, the Latrun Fortress, which now has the flag of Israel hovering over it.
The famous Latrun Fortress.
But in 1948, this would become the place of a bitter conflict between the Jews and the Arabs.
And you made the point, Danny, this is the key point. You cannot get to Jerusalem, basically, without going through here.
Yes.
And this was, we'll get into this, but this was cut off from Israel, from the Jewish people, especially the Jewish population in Jerusalem during the War for Independence.
Yes, highway number 1 passes right beneath us over here. You can see the morning traffic jams going up to Jerusalem. In the 1930s and 40s, the dirt road used to go on the left side of the hill. Anyone controlling the hill controls the road, and anyone controlling the hill can block the road. Now, May 1948, 14th of May 1948, when Ben Gurion declares the State of Israel, the British decide to leave this place, and actually Israeli forces get a hold of it without a battle. There is no conflict here, but because of the declaration of the state, the Egyptians declared they are going to invade us, and so Ben Gurion says, send all the forces you can that are not in conflict to confront the Egyptians.
David Ben Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel.
Yes, and the site is actually cleared. Big mistake. 5 days later, Jordanians come here and they realize this place is vacant and they get a hold of it. And then a Jewish truck trying to go up to Jerusalem is shot.
So the Israelis just evacuated Latrun. They just pretty much emptied out and they left it there. The Jordanians moved right in. And this is as the War for Independence is raging.
Yes, and we're talking about the time frame of a few days of events happening one after the other.
Yeah.
And then we realize what a mistake we've made, because now the road to Jerusalem is blocked. And in Jerusalem you have 100,000 Jews blocked, and Jerusalem is also the historical capital. How is Ben Gurion going to create a state without its historical capital? Okay, so Ben Gurion tells his fighting forces in a typical Ben Gurionish way, there can be Jerusalem without Israel, but there cannot be Israel without Jerusalem. You must get a hold of Latrun. You must open the road to Jerusalem.
So when you say the road was closed, by the way, Danny, by Jordanian forces there, that this was a very well-fortified fortress, as you said, built by the Brits. So it was closed off. When you close off Jerusalem, you cut off those 100,000 Jews living in Jerusalem. That means they can't get food, supplies,
Water. The main pipeline, the main water pipeline from the coast to Western Jerusalem, to the Jewish populated areas, passes by here. And the Jordanians also knocked that down. So there's no water, there's no food, there's no ammunition, there's no weapons for the Jews to protect themselves up on the city.
They're on an island in Jerusalem, basically, and they are cut off.
Indeed.
Wow.
What are we going to do? Okay? This is the story of the Burma Road. An amazing story of an accidental discovery of a bypass that avoids passing underneath the fort. Not only the fort, also all of this ridge was held by Jordanians.
Where we're standing right now.
From here and up to the antennas there.
Yeah. And sniping at Israeli soldiers below. Great vantage point here.
Exactly.
And from the fort as well, from the Latrun fortress.
And the bypass was a critical solution that operated for only about 6 months, but did the job. So we managed to create a state and include Jerusalem with it, thanks to this creative solution.
Well, let's go take a look at that solution, the infamous Burma Road. Let's go. Now, they put this road, they built this road in such a short amount of time, right? They must have been working feverishly. It was literally a life or death thing, especially for the residents of Jerusalem.
Yes, and frankly, there was one part that was especially difficult where they had like a 150-meter gap in heights. So trucks came down from Jerusalem, trucks brought the equipment, the food, the ammunition from Tel Aviv, and they would take them by foot down that hill. Okay, labor work until they finally completed that specific section, and then also trucks could do that specific part, and then the convoys started going. And for 6 months, this was like a busy road for the supplies to Jerusalem.
This was the place, but
until Road 44 was completed by October 48, and then the Burma Road was no longer in use.
So for a crucial, pivotal 6-month period, Danny, the Burma Road was the lifeline to the Jewish residents of Jerusalem. Amazing. And this is a story you really don't hear about a whole lot, at least in the United States. Among Israelis, this is.
You know what? A lot of
important
Israelis are familiar with the term Burma Road. They don't realize it's just next to home, and it's a comfortable ride. They fixed it. Here you can see the first signs.
Yeah.
Okay. The fortress is just over the corner there.
The Latrun Fortress.
But it's not visible deliberately, because if it was, that means the Jordanians would see the trucks here. See, the trucks would pass down here in the valley in a camouflaged way.
So this was all going on, these caravans of convoys, Israeli vehicles. The Jordanians did not know about this?
If they knew, they couldn't target it.
Wow.
Because it was over the ridge. Latrun is just over the edge, over this ridge, but there's a reason why we can't see it, because if you could see it, it means they could see the trucks passing here. This is like a secret low bypass to the main road of the time.
Amazing.
And you can imagine, trucks passing here, bringing fatal supply, food, water, ammunition.
Right here on this road where we're parked, this was a pivotal part of the 1948, the War for Independence. This is amazing, Danny. Coming up, we travel the legendary Burma Road to see how the Israelis overcame unbelievable odds and saved Jerusalem. Do not move.
An exciting new day has dawned for Christians United for Israel. After more than 10 years on the front lines fighting for Israel, now we have allies in the White House. Guided by his Christian faith, Vice President Pence has been a lifelong supporter of Israel. This support was intensified after his trip to Israel with CUFI, when he was the governor of Indiana. And now, we are excited to announce that Vice President Mike Pence will be our keynote speaker at this year's CUFI Washington, D.C. Summit. Don't miss this historic event. You can register right now for only $75 using the special discount code Watchman. We have operators waiting to receive your calls at 210-477-4714. Or you can register online at www.cufi.org/summit. We hope you join us with Pastor Hagee and Vice President Mike Pence at the CUFI Summit.
Danny, we are standing at a memorial to the legendary Burma Road. You can see the replicas of the convoys that came down here. This place looms large in Israel's modern history.
Indeed. First of all, topographically, notice that we are inside a little valley, so the traffic here is hidden, and it was opened by heavy machinery that this is illustrating in this sculpture. And once the road is open, the convoys loaded with weapons, ammunition, food, all the vital things, medicine, everything that the Jews besieged in Jerusalem are in need of, they start commuting up this road.
Wow, you can only imagine the hustle, the bustle, the buzz, the noise for a 6-month period that was occurring right where we are standing. And Danny, we have a map right here, by the way, at this memorial. This legendary Burma Road this was the lifeline in the existence of the modern state of Israel, really, and in particular in Jerusalem. As this map shows, only about 7 miles long. The 7 most crucial miles, probably, in the War of Independence, arguably, I would say.
Indeed. Latrun is not shown on the map here. It's like outside the frame.
The fortress Latrun.
The fortress of Latrun is blocking the original road.
With the Jordanian forces very strong there.
Exactly, and also the ridge beyond it. It was called the Ridge of the Cannons. So you cannot pass along what is now like Highway number 1. The Burma Road is the bypass that goes through this valleyed area. And then here you have a very difficult topographical gap that had to bridge. And then it ascends up to Dir Makhsir or Saris, which are now Israeli villages, or connect to Highway number 1, which was under Israeli control after some point. But this will be the critical area that you need to manage to pass And this is what this is all documented.
Yeah, and looming in the distance, Danny, as you said, is that Jordanian-controlled fortress, the fortress of Latrun, heavily fortified, crawling with Jordanian snipers, I'm sure, who would just love to get a shot at these convoys that were coming down here at Burma Road, but thankfully they were out of reach and they were camouflaged. The Israeli convoys that were going up to Jerusalem.
Yes, this was actually the range of the cannons, but they didn't have a visual of it, so they didn't know what they were targeting. At some point they realized there's something going on here. They could hear the noise, but their cannons were ineffective.
And Danny, it's another one of those modern miracles we see in the modern history of the land of Israel. 1948, against all odds, the Jewish people survived. They reestablished their ancestral homeland. Just little wrinkles in history, little wrinkles in that war, like the Burma Road. It just is endlessly fascinating, and you can see God's hand in it throughout that war for independence.
Yes, and the most problematic part was the section that's up ahead. Let me show you that.
And it's very steep, as you
Yes,
explained.
I'm not even sure my car can make it, but let's try.
Let's give it a try.
Up next, the living legacy of the Burma Road. Plus, how did it get its very un-Israeli name? Find out after the break.
I've just returned from Washington, D.C., where I had the honor of meeting with the President and Vice President of the United States of America. God has given Christians United for Israel unprecedented favor with our national leaders, and I fully expect to see God use CUFI in a supernatural way to protect the state of Israel and the Jewish people in the years to come. We need every CUFI member to come to Washington, D.C. for the summit on July 17th and 18th. This summit is going to be one for the history books. You can register right now for only $75, and our operators are standing by to assist you with making reservations. For Zion's sake, come to Washington, D.C. and help CUFI help the President defend Israel.
Okay, Eric, so we just drove up the Figs Ascent to the top of this hill. And there was a dirt path here also in 1948. There is another dirt path that comes down from Jerusalem to the bottom of this valley. The big problem is, how do you connect from here to down there? And when they found that there's a way to bring the trucks to both sides, the trucks just downloaded all the gear, and by labor, bag by bag, people took it down to the trucks waiting at the bottom of the valley.
We would call this schlepping.
A schlepping, exactly,
Schlep.
a good word.
I mean, God, what a tedious task, Danny, for men who are weary already to get out of their trucks and carry things up and down. Wow.
And the fear of Jordanian cannons also in the back there.
Absolutely.
But they were determined to achieve this task. And then they brought the heavy tractors that opened the road just enough for the trucks to also go down. It's still not a highway, it's still a dirt road.
I mean, it is narrow. I mean, it's pretty narrow.
Steep, and even my car today could not handle this. You really need a 4x4 like ATV or something.
And the technology, the automobile industry in 1948 wasn't what it is today in terms of countering this kind of terrain.
But it was just enough for the trucks to go down this crucial path, connect to the dirt road coming down from Jerusalem, and then the convoys could reach Jerusalem. So we resolved the issue of bringing supplies to Jerusalem, but there's still one more critical issue: water. Okay? We are talking about the beginning of the summer, and the faucets
And it gets hot.
have no water running in them. Okay? How do we provide water to the city? They found a solution to that too. This pipeline. Let me show you. Eric, imagine this in 1948, providing the vital water to save the Jewish parts of Jerusalem and its people.
This was it.
Yeah, it continued to operate till 1953.
Really?
Okay, it was done so well, but in the crucial 6 months of the battle over Jerusalem, it it did its role.
This was the lifeline to Jerusalem. This old pipe, it's got holes in it, it's rusting, it's decaying, Danny.
Most of it is gone also, but
Most of it's gone.
but there are still a few parts left, like here.
Amazing, because what was going on basically, Danny, was the Jordanian army. It was essentially a siege of Jerusalem, trying to cut off food and water and starve, and people in the Jewish residents of Jerusalem would starve, die of thirst. That was the plan of the Jordanians. And this old pipe we're looking at, this saved the day in many ways.
Yes, now you know Ben-Gurion finds symbolism in everything, or creates one.
The first Israeli prime minister, of course.
Indeed, and how does he label it? The Siloam pipeline. Now the Siloam Canal was created originally in Jerusalem 2,700 years ago by King Hezekiah to save Jerusalem from the Assyrians.
Hezekiah's tunnel.
Exactly, and here is another water container or conveyor that is saving the day. So Ben-Gurion says, call it by the same name, the Siloam pipeline.
Kind of a modern day Hezekiah's tunnel in many ways.
Indeed. And you know what? Let's walk now along what used to be the path of this pipeline and this ascent, which was called the Serpentines, to the bottom of it.
Let's do it.
So, Eric, this is the most steep and difficult part of the Burma Road. This sculpture of like a replica of a truck is demonstrating how it went down slowly on this bumpy terrain.
Treacherous.
Yes, to eventually continue and go up to Jerusalem. Saving the city, ensuring that Jerusalem will be part of the state of Israel. This is the famous story of the Burma Road.
Yeah, and this, by the way, Danny, this was not the era of monster trucks and huge 4x4s. You had pretty rudimentary trucks going down this treacherous, steep decline. There must have been some, I'd imagine, some crashes, some injuries, I would think.
I'm sure, yeah. They had their challenges.
And I have to ask you before we go, everyone at home's probably wondering, as we've been talking, why the Burma Road? Why the name? Burma, obviously, is in Asia. We're in the land of Israel, in the heart of the Middle East. How did this become known as the Burma Road?
Yes, that was also kind of a battle. How should we name this road? Everyone knew about this famous achievement, and the fighters wanted the road to be named after their unit, the Har El Brigade or the 7th Brigade. At the end, the public favored a nickname that was given to this road by an American journalist that relates to a famous bypass in Asia.
In Burma.
In Burma, a bypass made by the Americans and the British to avoid the Japanese-controlled areas. He nicknamed it the local Burma Road of Israel, and the name stuck.
And we had the bypass of the Jordanian army here. You know, it's interesting, Danny. My grandfather served in the U.S. Army, fought against the Japanese in Burma, ironically enough. Your father fought in the Israeli War for Independence.
Yes.
An American native, as you said earlier. So this must have great meaning, not only to every Israeli, but to you personally, to be here at the Burma Road.
He didn't battle here, but he participated in the battles up north. Yes, he was of that generation.
Yeah, and this preserved, that 6-month period, preserved the modern state of Israel, and especially the eternal capital of Jerusalem.
Indeed.
Danny, thank you so much. Thanks for a tour through the legendary Burma Road. We'll do it again, my friend, Watchman contributor, Danny the Digger Herman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Folks, what a show, what a story. The people of Israel live never to be uprooted again. My final thoughts after the break. It's the Watchman. It's Christians United for Israel, only right here on TBN from the legendary Burma Road. Stick around.
It's time to learn the truth about Israel. If you want to know the real story about Israel, then you need to watch Israel Through the Looking Glass, a movie that confronts the accusations against Israel with the reality on the ground. Witness with your own eyes and ears the contrast between Israel's accusers and the true stories you've never heard.
How far away are we now from Gaza?
From this point to the border, less than a mile.
28,000 rockets?
Rocket in 12 years.
Israeli Arabs have the same, by law, civic rights that any other citizen in the state of Israel has.
Call the number on your screen right now or visit the website and order your free DVD of Israel Through the Looking Glass.
This is what your teachers tell you, right? Teachers, yeah?
Israel needs you to know the truth, because the truth is our greatest weapon. Find out what you need to know so you can stand up and speak out for Zion's sake. The DVD is absolutely free. Order right now.
Thanks again to our good friend, Danny the Digger Herman, for a fascinating history lesson on the legendary Burma Road. Now, to schedule an Israel tour with Danny, you can visit his website, which you see there on your screen. There's a reason we use him so much on the show, folks, because he is great. By the way, our team here at Christians United for Israel thinks it is so important that you know the history of this great land, the land of Israel, and that you know the truth about events like the Burma Road so that you can be an effective defender of Israel. If you really want to make a difference for God's people and God's land, join our movement here at CUFI. We are America's largest pro-Israel organization, 3.5 million strong and growing every day. You see the information on your screen, so join this mighty move of God for such a time as this. You know, the prophet Isaiah talked about a day when God would say, build up, prepare the road, remove the obstacles out of the way of my people. Folks, that's exactly what happened with the Burma Bypass Road and the rescue of Jerusalem's Jewish population in 1948. It was a modern-day miracle, engineered ultimately, I believe, by the God of Israel. And there's much more to come. Thanks for joining us this week on The Watchman from Jerusalem. Until next time, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace.